Well, perhaps you'd like to just talk to us about a typical day in your life, a typical working day in your life.
A typical pre-COVID day starts probably at least the day before with me getting my instructions, so my brief, what it is that I'm doing. And just to slightly go back to pros and cons, one of the, I think, pros of doing family law and dealing with the darkness of it all and how difficult emotionally it can be, is that actually it also moves very quickly. You bounce from one case to the next case. And so there isn't a lot of time to spend wallowing in what's happening in one particular case, because frankly, as soon as it is over, I need to stop thinking about that one and move on to the next one and start reading into that one. So, so usually, very often you won't get your papers for a case until the night before. And now family law is all about massive bundles of paper. I mean, when I first came to the bar, my brief would be, 3 or 4 pages of A4 that I could fold in half and stick in my handbag. Now, it's a typical bundle starts at 300 pages and goes up to,
wow,
1,500 pages more. And you can get instructions for something like that the night before, and then you've got to read it, and you may have to look up some law because there's a point of law that you're going to have to argue the next day. You have also got to get a feel for what your position is, what the other side's position is, what are the issues. And I know that I remember from crime, although it's a very long time ago now, that in preparing a case in a criminal trial, there were a lot of tactics that you had to think about, and you had to think about, what bits of evidence will get me what I want, and how, I need to have a strategy about how I'm going to present this, and witnesses I want as opposed to which witnesses I don't. Family is a little bit different. Family, there is it's an open system in that if you get information, you hand it over to everybody. You can't get an expert's report and then decide, oh, that I don't like that expert's report, so I'm not going to use it. That doesn't happen. But everything you get, if you get it, everyone gets it. You can't get information and then decide I don't like it. The strategizing is more about it's more about thinking about what is the more important information. What's the more important bits of evidence? What's the evidence that I want to get to focus on that shines the best light on my client, my position? It's more building a picture for a judge. So if it's a trial, hopefully I'll have more than the night before to have been preparing for a trial. But if it's a trial, yes, I'll be thinking about examination in chief for my client. Although again, examination in chief generally in family is short. You shouldn't have much in the way of examination in chief in a family trial. It's very front-loaded family. It's all about the preparation. So there should be statements that come in that say everything that you would want to say in chief. Right. So I don't have to do that in the evidence.
I see.
So actually more the focus is about your cross-examination. What is it you want to get out of cross-examination? And you need to think about that for each witness, because it will be different for each witness depending on what the witness says. And again, family law is very expert heavy. So we tend to have lots of professional expert witnesses. not just the social workers, but there'll be psychiatrists and psychologists, there'll be doctors. So quite, you get to learn, and I love this the most about it, actually. You get to learn lots of interesting things about things that you never thought that you'd have to know about. So I've learned lots of medicine which is great, because if you're dealing with injuries, there'll be medical evidence about the injuries and how they happen, and whether or not it's an inflicted injury, or whether it's a naturally occurring event, or whether it could be, so and you need to learn all of that, understand it, and then be able to go toe to toe with a doctor who that's what they do all day, and then find some piercing, insightful questions to sort of knock them off kilter, or make them think differently about a conclusion that they've drawn, which is...
Does that happen very often?
Probably not as often as you'd like to, but that's the real challenge. I mean, it's just it can be fascinating, and it can be something that may seem really obvious if you're able to, and if you're skilled enough to, you can find ways of sort of suggesting, well, you thought that this was the only cause for this would be this, but what about that? And in a field that you know nothing about.
Yeah.
That's there.
Well, Elpha, I could talk to you for hours about preparation. It's really fascinating. I'm always interested in hearing about the way that other people prepare for their cases, but we're talking about a typical day. So
I know, weren't we? A typical day. So usually a typical day.
So we've exhausted what happens the night before when you've got your papers.
So that's just the reading in and the getting ready for it. And then the typical day would be you start with where is your court hearing happening? Because again, another big feature of what we do is that we go to courts anywhere and everywhere. People tend to be on a circuit of some kind. So I work sort of the London and Southeastern circuit. I don't like traveling too much anymore, so I don't like to go too far, and my clerks know that now, so they're quite good at not asking me to go too far. But there'll be sort of some ridiculously early train that I have to catch to some court somewhere, and then they'll be getting to court. They'll be finding and then talking to your client, finding and talking to the other lawyers in the case, discussing what the issues are, what is it we're dealing with on a particular day, what's going to be happening in this hearing, and then they'll be getting into court and dealing with whatever the application is that day, whether it's a trial or a short application, dealing with that. And then after that, you come out, talk to your client, and debrief them afterwards, and then going back home usually.
Sorry to interrupt you, Elpha, but what about the role of the solicitor? So would you have a solicitor in court with you at one of those hearings, or after court, do you then phone the solicitor and explain what's happened, and then in writing express what happened?
It's changed over the years. When I first started, solicitors would sometimes come to court with you, and frankly, you ought to be accompanied by someone from the solicitor's office, so that there is someone else there who can record what your client has said to you, so that there's a record of what they've said, because it's not unheard of for clients to, after a hearing, say, well, I told them to do this and they didn't do it, and say, no, you didn't tell me that. That's not what you told me before, and so it's quite important to have someone else there. But over time, and with limitations on all sorts of things like legal aid and the ability of and solicitors being equally very busy. Solicitors don't come to court anymore.
Right.
They used to send a clerk. There used to be a clerk in the office who would also come to court, but even that has stopped. So pretty much, no, there is no one else there with me apart from, it's just me and the client. And then I report back to the solicitor after the hearing. And that's very important. So your report back is very important because it's the only way that the solicitor knows what has happened. And bearing in mind that very often, I might do one hearing on this particular day, but I won't be the person doing the next hearing. The solicitor has got to know everything that happened, everything that was said, so that they can then pass that information on to whoever is representing that client the next time, so that, you know, they know what has happened, and then they bounce on from there.
Absolutely.
So the report back is really crucial.
So you report back, and then after you've done that, what's the rest of your day look like?
Usually, I then work out what the next day is going to look like, pick up the brief for the next day, and
it starts all over again.
And you just do it all over again. So yeah, it's a bit of a treadmill. And I have to say, it fills up all of your time, and there is I don't get weekends off. There's no such thing. So you work nights, you work weekends, you just do that, and it is just continuous.
But it's a privilege and an honor to be able to do this type of work, I would say.
I would agree. I think it is. I think it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And because barristers are all self-employed, I mean, it makes us sound a bit like we're martyrs. We're just working all the time. We're never doing it. That's not entirely true. We're self-employed, and so you do have a bit of control. You can say, you know, I need a day to, you know, I need a day when I'm not in court so that I can prepare for something in a couple of days' time.
Well, you're 30-odd years cool, Elpha, so...
Yes, I had the privilege of having that. Yeah, yes, that's true. I never had that before. When I was a baby barrister, I had no political sway at all. I had no control. The clerks just gave you things and you just had to do it. And you had to keep on.
You're not just a barrister now, of course, you're a deputy district judge, and I want to talk to you about that. What prompted you to become a deputy district judge, and what was the process like for you?
I had absolutely no ambition for a judicial appointment of any kind. It didn't occur to me. I came in at a time when, you know, there weren't many barristers that looked like me at all at the bar, and I was just glad to have got through the bar exams, and then I was just thrilled that I got a pupillage. And then when someone offered me a tenancy, I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. And that was the height of my ambition, just to be able to get in and be able to go to court was just as exciting as I needed it to be. And
well, you had an amazing reputation, and you were always very, very busy doing good quality work. So how did that?
I was unaware of that. I was unaware. This was not part of the narrative in my head, and that's probably just as well, because it would have freaked me out, and I'm not sure that I could have handled the pressure of anyone thinking I was any good at what I was doing. I was just happy to be allowed to do it, because it did feel like that. It felt like but you were being allowed into this place that not many people like you were allowed to be in. So none of that occurred to me, and I wasn't thinking about it. And then I was at I think an inn event, and it was a sort of, you know, meet and greet thing, and people were sort of wandering around, and there was the district judge from the then principal registry, which is now the Central Family Court, who stopped to speak to me during this event. And then I'd appeared in front of him, So I was very aware of him, but I didn't think he had any awareness of me. So I was quite pleased when he decided to talk to me. And then he said, there is a deputy district judge competition coming up, and I really think you should apply.
Wonderful.
And I thought, well, yes, except that I thought, yeah, that's funny.
Well, did you think he was just being nice?
Yes, I did. I just thought, that's very nice of you to say that, and lovely. And I moved on and thought no more about it. And then a few days later, I was sitting in chambers and I had a phone call from this judge who said, the advert is out now for this position. I really want you to apply, and I will be one of your sponsors. So I expect to get the request for my report back.
That's amazing.
So go ahead and apply. And honestly, Sonia, I only applied because I thought I will get into trouble with him if he doesn't get if he doesn't get the request for information about me. So I thought, that's fine. I'll fill it in. I'll make the application, and then I'll wait for my rejection letter, and it will all be fine, and I can go back to my life, and it will be fine.
Even with such a huge endorsement, you didn't feel that you would be appointed to the position?
No, absolutely. I had absolutely honestly, when I say I had no ambition for it, and that it had never even occurred to me that this was a thing that I could do. And again, I didn't know any Black judges. I mean, remember, I'm here on sufferance anyway, as far as I'm concerned. It's sort of, they let me do this, and I'm happy that they let me do this. I'm happy with this. I get to go to court. This is good. What on earth makes me think that I could be a judge? That's just ridiculous. So I did the whole process thinking, yeah, and then there'll be a nice little polite rejection letter,
and there wasn't.
And then I literally could go back to my life. And then the letter came, and it wasn't, and it was, and then I completely lost the plot just a little bit. I was just, this is insane. And then there was the fear and the terror, because now I have to do it. Now I have to do this thing. And anyone who knows me knows that there are a couple of things about me. And one of the things about me is that I try not to be very serious. I am a horrible giggler. I have no poker face. I thought this is not going to work. This is going to end very, very badly. There will just be ridicule and ridiculousness. And I remember distinctly the first day that I sat and there was that was a surreal moment. I was sitting in this giant red chair in this room. This is, and I've been told, this is your courtroom. This is, you have control. You decide, and you must act like that's what's going on. And it was mad. It was just, I could not believe that it was happening to me. And I was terrified, but also a little excited about it. It was just sort of, and here's the other thing. Many, many years later, a colleague, a friend of mine, told me over lunch that that first day that I sat, so I was the first Black judge to sit in that court. So the principal registry of the family division, and I was the first Black judge ever to sit there. And I didn't know it at the time, which is just as well, because it would have added to my sense of complete terror. Apparently, there was a little crowd of people outside my courtroom door. And the courtroom doors at the principal registry have tiny spy holes. And apparently there was a little crowd of people outside my door staring in. They all wanted to see the Black judge.
They wanted to witness history.
This was a thing that was happening, and they wanted to see the Black judge. I did not know this.
How amazing. And you've been sitting for 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any ambitions to become a full-time judge?
No.
Which means it will happen.
No. But no, I really, it is, it's a very hard job, actually. It's very full on. I mean, it's quite full on being a barrister. You know, it is a bit of a treadmill.
Yeah.
Being a judge is even more of a treadmill. There's, you know, you're dealing with usually more than one case a day. So there's a lot of information that you've got to get your head around. You have to follow your cases. It is a full day every day. You know, as a barrister, sometimes I'll get an afternoon free. You know, my case might be short and I might be finished by lunchtime. That doesn't happen if you're a judge. You're just your day continues right from quite early in the morning until quite late in the evening, and it is pretty relentless. But I do love it when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
When I'm not doing it, I'm kind of, you know, I could take it or leave it. When I'm doing it, I do love doing it. And what I love most is that, and the reason why I do it actually is particularly the look on the faces of Black families when they come into my courtroom. They are just, whatever I'm deciding, they are just so happy to see themselves sitting there.
Yeah.
And frankly, for me, that makes it completely worth it. That's the reason for doing it.
Visibility is important.
And
it's motivating.
It's amazing. It's amazing how motivating it is, and how important. And I hadn't realized that until I started. I hadn't realized how much until I started sitting. How important it is for people to see themselves.
Yep.
You know, in the person who's making what is often really humongous decisions.
Yeah.
About their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, that sense that actually you might actually understand me and where I'm coming from, and what life is like for me.